Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Exploring Fiction. Completing my journey through the current collective works in the world of Ice and Fire, I recently read the entirety of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Much has been made of the tales of Dunk and Egg. For a certainty, I had to read these stories and form my own opinions. I was not disappointed. So, what are my thoughts after reading A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms for the first time? Let's explore. As always, let us begin with what I enjoyed. And of course, it almost goes without saying, the world building and setting lived up to the same standards set for all work in the world of Ice and Fire. George R.R. Martin's prose painted a vivid picture of the Seven Kingdoms, this time from a more grandiose, wondrous point of view. Seeing events unfold through the eyes of Sir Duncan, who will be discussed later, made the Targaryens and their ilk feel truly royal. Characters such as Baelor Breakspear and the Bloodraven seem not just other characters in the long line of kings and princes, but actual figures worthy of awe. As always, the world and setting was alive, and once again a standout aspect of the story. However, I believe the greatest strength of this story collection, and the part I enjoyed the most, was the relationship between our two main characters, Dunk and Egg. But not only was their relationship with each other likable, they as individual characters were easy to empathize with and root for. Sir Duncan was an honorable man, making up for his lack of intellect and wit through physical strength and emotional fortitude. He was often held back and outwitted by those around him, but his heart was in the right place in all he did. Such traits distinguished him as a good, respectable man. What's more, he was a low-born man with a meaningless past who never compromised his beliefs, causing him to stand out amidst the usual cast of Martin's stories. Dunk's rise from nothing to what little renown he had made him much more relatable for myself and the average reader. Egg, meanwhile, was the perfect foil to the tall knight. He was born of royalty, a prince in disguise. Young Aegon kept his identity quiet, but little else. While Dunk was stoic and contemplative, Egg was rash and talkative. He was headstrong for a boy, bolstered by the knowledge that he could tower above any and every person with which he crossed paths. At least in the hierarchy of Westerosi power. Together, these two characters played off each other seamlessly, and their banter-filled adventures were so fun to follow as a consequence. Another major positive of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms was one I did not initially expect. I approached these stories expecting low stakes, tame adventures involving a lowly knight and his high-born squire. What I did not expect, however, was a trio of tales intricately involved in the heart of the first two Blackfire rebellions, full of survivor's guilt, the embitterment of defeated warriors, and the struggle to adapt to a changing world. From the death of the king's hand on behalf of a hedge knight, to the reconciliation of working under a former traitor, to unwillingly participating in an insurgent resurrection, the stories offered in this work went well beyond my initial predictions. Each one managed to balance somber themes with whimsical fun masterfully. A third positive aspect of this book was its tone. It is no secret that A Song of Ice and Fire, and much of its accompanying lore, is rooted in dark themes and gray characterization. In my opinion, there is a rightful place for this sort of story in fiction, but it should not be the lone or dominant set of tropes. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms stood out from the rest of the works of Ice and Fire in that they inherently felt very happy. Of course, this was not to say they couldn't get dark. In The Hedge Knight, one of the Targaryen princes accidentally kills his own brother, the greatest man in the realm during that time. However, the darkness in these stories felt more like the darkness in fairy tales or tall tales. It felt rooted in myth and legend, not everyday life. Therefore, at least to me, these stories maintained a whimsical air, focused just as much on the thrill of adventure as the deeper themes previously discussed. Though the gray morality and melancholic feel of Martin's other works did exist here in part, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms was largely exempt from the unending suffering of its predecessors. If there were any downsides to A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, it would be that 3 stories felt too few. It was criminal to skip over Dunk and Egg's venture to Dorne, as this escapade was only alluded to in dreams. Many further stories were hinted to lay ahead, and like most of George R.R. Martin's work, all we can do is wait. Finally, I wanted to rank the 3 stories that make up A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, based on my personal enjoyment and opinion. So in third, I placed the second entry, The Sworn Sword. This story had plenty of merits, the utmost of which was the revelation that Sir Duncan was serving a man who supported the Blackfire Pretender. Dunk was a character guided by honor to his realm, and the discovery that he'd willingly, yet unknowingly, entered the service of a traitor to the throne made for a heavy and satisfying conflict. His interactions with Sir Eustace and Lady Webber particularly stood out. Yet, compared to the other 2 stories, this one was rather simple, a dispute over land and water more focused on loyalty and character than any other grand happenings in Westeros. In second, I placed The Hedge Knight. This may be an unpopular take, but I still found this story almost impeccable, showing how Dunk became Sir Duncan the Tall, and how a prince entered into his service as a squire. The Hedge Knight was a flawless origin story and jumping point for its characters. Stakes were set and met, and this entire narrative created a great backdrop for Sir Duncan. What's more, the character of Baelor Breakspear, for his brief appearance on the page, reflected one of the most cathartically tragic tales I've ever read. However, my favorite story present in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms was The Mystery Knight. It started out well enough, though not overwhelming, but by the end, I was astounded. As the mystery unfolded, and we, along with Sir Duncan, realized the tourney was secretly the start of the Second Blackfire Rebellion, it felt as though we stumbled upon a plot that was best left untouched. Sir Glendon Ball was an easy character to cheer for, especially since Dunk took a liking to him, and the appearance in the end of the Bloodraven, after hearing so much about him, only added to the wonder I experienced reading this tale. I do have one final question, though. Sir Maynard Plum was Bloodraven in disguise, right? I like that even after reading the story, I still think about how it ultimately unfolded, and for that reason, it was my favorite of the bunch. So, that's all for this video. Leave a comment with your thoughts, especially with your opinion on A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, as I'd love to hear them. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new here. I'd love to have you. Visit my website, russellawellsauthor.com, for exclusive reviews, fiction, and more, and sign up for my mailing list for free exclusive content. The links for both are in the description below. And, like always, I will see you next time.